Hi, I'm Ron Gibson, Special Projects Manager here at GEMLUX. We're coming to you today from our warehouse facility here in Jacksonville, Florida. We want to take a few minutes to show you some real quick and easy upgrades you could do to your boat. Today we're showcasing a 25 Contender, a 2000 model, that we're going to put on a new steering wheel, we're going to put on some new rod holders, new latches, and new hinges that you could do yourself on your boat. Hey, so we're up on the bow now. We're getting ready to place this existing latch from the anchor locker hatch. We're going to take the original latch that came with the boat when it was new, and we're going to replace it with GEMLUX with the lift and turn latch. This one has a couple of cool features about it. It's got two different cam availabilities, which we're going to talk about in just a few minutes. That will depend on the type of application that you have and the depth of the lid, and as opposed to what cam you're going to need to make that happen. So first thing we're going to do, we need to get this old latch out. And for this, looks like here we've just got a plastic backing nut that's holding this whole thing together. So we're going to get this started. Let's see if we can't get it by hand. Tell there's a little bit of silicone in here that they put in. And once we get this out, we're going to see what we've got underneath. More than likely there's been some silicone put in to bed this. We're going to need to get that all cleaned up. Going to pop right out, pull it right out of the top. Got a flange there, and we've got a pretty good amount of silicone in here that we're going to need to get out of the way in order to replace it with our new lift and turn. So thankfully that was pretty easy. We just got that out of the way. Get this moved out. So we've got a little bit, the bottom side doesn't look bad, a little bit on the top. We've got some silicone on the top. We're going to take just a minute, we're going to get that off, make it nice and clean so that when we put our new lift and turn latch down, we don't see all of that, because the footprint on this latch is a little bit different than the one that came off. So we want to make sure from a cosmetic standpoint that it looks great on the top. So we're going to take our time with this double-sided razor blade, trying to always work from the outside in, and try to get all of this last little bit of film of the old silicone that was on here off. A lot of times with silicone, as opposed to 5200, you can just kind of roll it off with your finger. Get a lot of these out of the way. Sometimes on the thicker pieces, you'll need to take that razor blade and just kind of get it started and get it coming out of there. And some of them is being stubborn. And go back to our marine formula. Just spraying a little bit on there, letting it sit. And like magic, it comes right off. Now we're going to take our new latch. And I've got this one where I just pulled the cams off of it. We're going to leave this on that bolt. This is our backing nut. So when we put the cams back on, we're going to, because these are threaded, we're going to wrap these up to get our adjustment right. We're going to use this as a backing nut to hold that tight. And then when we put our locking nut back on the bottom, it's going to hold all that. Once we get our depth set, it's going to hold it all just right. So we want to look at the whole. Super important thing to remember with these lift and turns, the diameter of the hole cutout is very, very important to be able to get the proper lift and turn latch to get put in there, whether it be a 2-inch or 2.5. You just want to get that measurement of the hole cutout size to go in there. So looks like for us, we made it just perfect. We got the right one that's going to fit in there nice and tight. Better a little bit tight than loose. We don't have any play as we tighten that down. Now we get to a section, for me it's a little bit personal preference. Sometimes you kind of have to look at the application. The way this particular latch is set up, we can have this latch facing in any direction that we want to have, whether it be what we call on the axis of the boat or going with north and south from bow to stern as a lift. We can turn it this way, we can turn it that way, we can turn it however way we want. The beauty of that being, because we have the adjustments with the cam on the bottom, and where it's going to catch on the outside of the gutter of the latch, we can place this wherever we like it. So I'm kind of a north-south guy. And one thing to remember, if we decide what we're going to do, if we're replacing all the latches all the way across the boat, just to make it look nice and uniform, if we decide we're going to go with the north-south application here, I would carry that all the way through the boat so that we've got some uniformity as it goes through. Now, not every hatch is going to be able to let you have that application. You may have something in the way, but nonetheless, it's all going to work just the same. So, we're going to get that set in there, try to eyeball it, and get it as square as we can possibly get it, so that it looks right. All right, so before we go ahead and bolt this to the hatch and get the backing plate put on it, just like any other stainless steel product, we want to properly bed this before we put it down. That's going to help create, to keep moisture from settling inside of that, and it's also going to help to keep what's commonly called the ring of fire, where you're going to get a little bit of a bleed with the stainless to create any rust marks that might come out. So we're just going to take a little bit of silicone and wrap it all the way around the flange. Making sure we get plenty of it in there so that it squeezes out when we pull tight, because it's very hard to squeeze any in. It's like trying to put toothpaste back in the tube. So now that we got it set, we'll kind of eyeball. That looks good to me. I got it north-south like I'd like it. We're going to use a 1024 flathead stainless steel machine screw. I'm going to drop those in. I'm going to just take my two fingers and hold those from falling out. And I'm going to reach right underneath here and pop up my backing plate. And then use the tension of that plate to hold. Let's use our 3/8. Some of you may be wondering why it may be a little bit easier to use a cordless screwdriver on top to pull these down. Something I don't really recommend, especially in a situation like this. You don't want to run that down too hard and too fast with the tops of these bolts being very soft. We don't want to wring out the top of it in case we ever had to pull this back out. Everybody knows trying to pull a strip through bolt out is very fun. So we're just going to hand tighten these down until we get them where we want them, and then we'll finish snugging them up. All right, so I got one side hand tight. Do the same to the other. And before I make an effort to go ahead and snug these nuts all the way down, I just want to double check for one last time and make sure I like the way that my latch aligns up with the boat, that I got it square the way that I want it, so everything looks good. We didn't move a whole lot. So now we'll go back, holding that tight. We'll tighten it down with our screwdriver and then hold some tension on the screwdriver and give probably a quarter of a turn just till you get it hand tight. Hold it tight, give it one last turn. So now we're set. We got everything like we like it. It'll take a second. And let's go ahead and clean the excess silicone that we have on the outside here before we go ahead and set our cams, so we don't get it all over our fingers. Making sure we don't have any silicone residue left on our non-skid, which is not going to look pretty later. And we definitely don't want to have any on our stainless steel. So we're going to get all that cleaned up. And the beauty, if we have a little bit of silicone left over on our stainless when we're done, it's just going to rub right off with the fingernail, so no big deal. Biggest important thing, we just want to make sure we get it all off of our fiberglass, because that's going to show later. This lifting pull is going to come with two cams and a locking nut that's going to hold these in place. So we kind of need to look at this and decide exactly which one we need to use. This one with an angle is really good. It allows you to use if you've got a deeper application on your gutter or something much shallower. That way you can start it up this way to get it any deeper. You can flip it over that way to catch it, or with this straight one, you can thread it up all the way on the bolt wherever you need it to catch. So what I've discovered in putting this on is I went ahead and tried to use the straight cam piece to come across, which is going to work fine. It's got it held tight. What I would really like to do on this locker, because we've got a gasket on it, is to be able to get a little bit more travel on that so that I can pull it down just a tad bit tighter on that. But what we've run into is we've run out of threaded space on there, which is not a problem, which is the whole reason why you're going to get with that kit, you're going to get the angled piece and the straight piece. So what we're going to be able to do with this now is we're going to be able to thread this up into here, and we're going to be able to get this cam to come up a little bit higher so that we catch it and pull it down a little bit tighter. So we're going to take a minute, we're going to take this one all the way off and then thread the angled back on there. So we've made a change. We've taken off the straight cam that came with it and put on the angled piece. We've got it run up to where we set. And what I like about this now is that I can shut the latch. I can put a little bit of pressure on it with my hand to turn it to catch it tight and lock it down, and it's going to hold it tight. That's going to do two things. One, is going to help with the gasket material that's on here. It's going to hold it down tight to the edge of the gutter on here, and two, it's going to keep this from rattling as we're running, because nobody likes to hear strange noises on their boat while they're riding out. So now we've got that set. One very cool feature about the lift and turn hatch I'm going to show you. If we look on this side, it's super clean. We don't have any marks. We've got it all set. It's nice and tight. I'm going to push down on it with my hand to release some of the pressure and turn it, and be able to pick the hatch up and lift it up. Now, if any instance, let's say we had a fish box lid, or we had some kind of a hatch that we need access to quite frequently on the boat, but we don't need it to be locked down at all the time. So you can turn this, flip it over on the other side, and now I've got a red dot showing on the top of it, which is indicating to me that the hatch itself is not fastened or latched down to the gutter, so it's just free to move up and down and pick up, and it's actually moved that cam out of the way so it's free. That way you can just pick up the latch and pick it up and drop it, or you can turn it, spin it around 180 degrees tight, and drop it back in, and you've got a nice tight fit.